Thank you, and good morning to everyone. We're gonna get started. You know, before we start this session, I would like to make an announcement. Due to the continuing threat to public health from COVID-19 and the Delta variant, City Council is currently meeting remotely. We are using Microsoft Teams to make this remote meeting possible. Instructions for how the public may view the meeting and offer public comment are included in the stated meeting notice that was published in the Daily News, Inquirer, and the Legal Intelligencer prior to the meeting and can also be found on phlcouncil.com. I now note that the hour has come. The clerk will please call a roll to take attendance, and members that are in attendance, please indicate that you are here by saying present and a word or two to make sure that your image is displayed on the screen. Thank you very much. Mr. Decker, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass.
Good morning, Council President, colleagues, and Philadelphia. Good morning.
Councilwoman Brooks.
Good morning, Council President, colleagues, and City of Philadelphia. I'm present.
Good morning.
Councilman Dom.
Good morning, Council President and colleagues and people of Philadelphia.
Good morning.
Councilwoman Gauthier.
Good morning, Council President, colleagues, and Philadelphia. Present.
Good morning.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues, and good morning, Philadelphia.
Good morning.
Councilman Green.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues. Good morning to the city of brotherly love and sisterly effectiveness.
Good morning.
Councilwoman Kim.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues. I am present. Council President, at some point during this session, I may have to leave for official business and would like to be recorded as voting aye on all bills and resolutions.
Okay. Just make a note when you're gonna come on. When you're gonna leave. Thank you, Councilwoman.
Councilman Johnson.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues. Sending out prayers to all the families who have lost loved ones to senseless gun violence. Good morning.
Good morning.
Councilman Jones.
Good morning, Mr. President. Good morning, colleagues. Good morning, Ben Simmons. Go Birds. I'm present.
Good morning, sir.
Councilman O.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues. I am present.
Good morning. Yeah.
Councilman O'Neill.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Councilwoman Parker.
Good morning, Mr. President, colleagues, and Philadelphia.
Good morning.
Councilwoman Quinones Sanchez.
Buenos dias, buenos dias. I'm wearing my Eagles green because I want to believe. Thank you.
Buenos dias. We believe.
Councilman Squilla.
Good morning, Council President, colleagues. Present.
Good morning.
Councilman Thomas.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues. Good morning to the listening public. I'm present.
Good morning.
Council President Clark.
Good morning to all, and we're going to get started. And this morning, to give our invocation, the chair recognizes the Bishop Keith W. Reed of Sharon Baptist Church. He is here today as the guest of Councilman Jones. Good morning, Bishop. Thank you for being here. He is here today.
This is my pleasure.
Listen, so I'm going to ask all members and guests to please bow your heads for the invocation. Bishop, please proceed.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Gracious God, our Father, we come in your presence this morning in the name that is above every name. And we would ask that you would receive our thanks for your grace, for your mercy that kept us. For you said it is because of your mercies that we are not consumed. Great is your faithfulness. So we thank you, Lord, for your faithfulness. We also thank you for the honor and the privilege of being able to gather around what you called in Romans chapter 13, the ministers of God, the authorities that you have placed in government. you being the ultimate authority. I pray that even now you would give them wisdom, give them grace, give them sensibility to be able to deal with the affairs that take place in the city of Philadelphia. We need you to impart unto them that which would be pleasing in your sight. So now this morning, Lord, I give them over to you for your care, for your keeping, for your guidance, for your direction that you desire for them to have. Now use them for the good of humanity and the glory of your name. In your name we pray with thanksgiving. Amen. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Bishop. We really appreciate you being here this morning.
My pleasure, my brothers and sisters. Take care. You have a blessed day. Bye-bye now.
Thank you. You too, sir. And our next order of business will be the approval of the journal of the meeting, Thursday, October 7th, 2021. And the chair recognizes Councilman Squilla.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the acceptance of the journal of Thursday, October 7th.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and properly seconded that the journal of the meeting of Thursday, October 7th, 2021 stand approved. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Ayes have it. And our journal is approved. And our next order of business is request for leave of absence. And the chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the members of council, a leave of absence is requested for Councilmember Heenan.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Leave shall be granted. Let the record reflect. Councilman Heenan. And next we will have our motion on the Sunshine Act. The chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker for a motion concerning certain legislative matters that may arise during the course of today's session of council and that were not listed on the calendar circulated prior to today's session.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that any of the following matters, if considered today, may be added to the agenda for this session of council and, as required by law, subsequently published on an amended agenda after the consideration of those matters, resolutions authorizing hearings, amendments to bills on first reading, the reconsideration of a bill vetoed by or recalled from the mayor, resolutions taking substantive action to be voted on in this session, a motion to withdraw a bill or resolution that is not on the calendar, and a motion placing a bill or resolution on or returning a bill or resolution from the suspension calendar that is not listed on today's calendar. The purpose of this motion is to provide the public with notice concerning possible actions by council that arose too late to be included on the calendar that was published prior to today's session.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and properly seconded that the legislative matters stated by Councilwoman Parker may be added to the agenda for today should those matters arise during the course of this session of council. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Those
Aye.
opposed? Ayes have it, and the motion carries. And our next order of business is communications. And Mr. Decker, please read the messages from the mayor and any other communications that you may have in your possession.
Yes, Mr. President. From the mayor to the president and members of the council of the city of Philadelphia, I am pleased to advise you that on October 6, 2021, I signed the following bill, which was passed by council at its session on September 30, 2021, bill number 210474 AA. And I am submitting herewith for the consideration of your honorable body a resolution approving the appointment of McCullough Williams III to the Philadelphia Water, Sewer, and Stormwater Rate Board, and a resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Land Bank to dispose of 2003 North Orkney Street, 2039 East Fletcher Street, and 2913 North Orkney Street, located in the 7th Councilmanic District. And a resolution amending Section 2 of an ordinance, Bill number 170086, entitled an ordinance authorizing the revision of lines and grades of the portion of City Plan number 269 by relocating portions of the house lines and curb lines of Convention Avenue from 34th Street to Health Sciences Drive, and placing on the city plan 2 rights-of-way for drainage purposes within the vicinity of the intersection of Convention Avenue and Health Sciences Drive, by extending the period for compliance with the terms and conditions stated therein, and an ordinance authorizing the revision of lines and grades of the portion of City Plan number 230 by striking from the city plan Crescent Street from Osborne Street to Vassar Street, and reserving and placing on the city plan a right-of-way for sewer and drainage purposes within the portion of Crescent Street being stricken, all under certain terms and conditions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Decker. And our next order of business is the introduction of bills and resolutions. And by way of a reminder, we're asking that all resolutions, including privilege resolutions, be placed on the final passes calendar for the next session of council unless they are being referred to committee. In our current remote environment, this procedure will provide the appropriate opportunity for public comment. So I want to thank you very much in advance for your anticipated cooperation. Mr. Decker, please read the titles of the legislation that's being offered today by our members.
Councilwoman Parker offers on behalf of Council President Clark 2 resolutions, entitled a resolution confirming the reappointment of Brian J. McCormick as a member of the Board of Ethics to serve in the term ending November 16, 2026.
For the committee.
And a resolution approving the appointment of McCullough Williams III to the Philadelphia Water, Sewer, and Stormwater Rate Board.
I'll refer that to committee also.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson offers 3 resolutions. On behalf of Council President Clark, Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson offers a resolution honoring and congratulating Dawn Staley for coaching the 2021 Olympic gold medal winning U.S. women's basketball team.
Next week's calendar.
And on her own behalf, a resolution recognizing October 21, 2021 as Conflict Resolution Day.
Next week's calendar.
And a resolution recognizing and congratulating Sharon Thompson for her historic appointment as the first alumni principal of the Merle Dobbins Career and Technical Education High School.
Next week's calendar.
Councilwoman Gim offers 1 resolution entitled a resolution honoring and congratulating Kianga Yamada Taylor for being named a 2021 MacArthur Genius Fellow for her innovative scholarship on Black social movements and racial inequality in the United States and her critical examination of race, exploitation, and redlining in American housing policies and practices.
Next week's calendar.
Councilman Jones offers 1 bill and 1 resolution entitled an ordinance authorizing the revision of lines and grades in a portion of City Plan number 230 by striking from the City Plan Crescent Street from Osborne Street to Vassar Street and reserving and placing on the City Plan a right-of-way for sewer and drainage purposes within a portion of Crescent Street being stricken.
Third committee.
And a resolution recognizing and thanking the many faith-based organizations across the city, synagogues, churches, and mosques, for their activism and service to the public throughout the pandemic in providing the citizens of Philadelphia with food, personal protective equipment, and COVID-19 testing and vaccinations.
Next week's calendar.
Councilman Green offers 1 bill on behalf of President Clark entitled an ordinance authorizing an increase in the non-electoral indebtedness of the city within the Pennsylvania constitutional limit, authorizing the bond committee to sell bonds at public or private negotiated sale to provide funds toward various capital municipal purposes, providing for appropriations to the sinking fund commission for the payment of such bonds, and authorizing agreements to provide credit or payment or liquidity sources for the bonds in connection with issuance of the bonds.
Third committee.
On his own behalf, Councilman Green offers a resolution recognizing and congratulating Richard Schutler upon the occasion of his retirement from the Pennsylvania Municipal League after 20 years and even longer dedication to efficient, effective, decent governance across the Commonwealth.
Next week's calendar.
Councilwoman Brooks offers 1 resolution entitled a resolution authorizing the Committee on Housing, Neighborhood Development, and the Homeless to conduct hearings to identify barriers and solutions to permanently preserving community gardens and open spaces in the city of Philadelphia.
This week's calendar.
Councilman Dom offers 1 resolution honoring Angelo Cataldi on the occasion of the announcement of his retirement as co-host of the WIP Morning Show and for invigorating the passionate fan culture of Philadelphia throughout his illustrious career in Philadelphia sports radio.
Next week's calendar.
Councilwoman Gautier offers one bill entitled an ordinance amending Section 2 of an ordinance, Bill number 170086, approved May 22, 2017, entitled an ordinance authorizing the revision of lines and grades in a portion of City Plan number 269 by relocating the portions of the house lines and curb lines of Convention Avenue from 34th Street to Health Sciences Drive.
For the committee.
Councilman Squilla offers one bill entitled an ordinance amending Title 14 of the Philadelphia Code, entitled Zoning and Planning, by amending certain provisions of Chapter 14502, entitled CTR Center City Overlay District, to create a new sub-area of the Old City Residential District.
For the committee.
Councilman O offers one resolution entitled a resolution calling on the City of Philadelphia to issue a reward for information leading to an arrest in the arson case which victimized Sonia Brigham, an outspoken anti-drug, anti-violence block captain in the Harrogate section of Northeast Philadelphia.
Next week's calendar.
There are no other bills or resolutions being offered today by the members, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. That concludes our introduction of bills and resolutions. We have no reports from committee today. So our next order of business is consideration of the calendar. There being no bills on the first reading calendar, the chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker for the purpose of calling up resolutions and bills on the second reading and final passage calendar. Before we do that, Councilwoman, before we do that, I'd like to recognize Councilwoman Gim.
Sure.
Yes. Thank you so much, Council President. Thank you, Majority Leader. I have to leave council a little bit early for business outside and would like to be recognized as voting aye on all bills and resolutions.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Let the record reflect that. And the record shall reflect.
Thank you, Council President.
Voting aye on all bills and resolutions and amendments. Councilman
President,
proceed. I'm sorry.
rather than interrupt the flow of session, I'd like to be recognized as voting aye on all bills. I must leave council for business outside and would like to be recorded as voting aye on all bills and resolutions.
Let the record reflect Councilman Jones is being reported as voting aye on all bills and resolutions and amendment and taking a leave of absence for purposes of conducting business for the city of Philadelphia.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. President, shall I proceed?
I'm sorry, Councilwoman. Yes, please proceed.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President. The following resolutions and bills are being called up from the second reading and final passage calendars today. They are numbers 210601, 210809, 210811, 210812, 210813, 210814, 210816, 210817, 210818, 210819, 210820, 210636A, 210635, 210681, 210682, and 210684. All of the other resolutions and bills are being held, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Councilwoman. Before we proceed with our consideration of the public comment, we'll now take a brief 5 to 10 minute recess to give our technology professionals an opportunity to connect our speakers for today's calendar. Let's take a quick break. Thank you. Thank you very much, and we are back. Now that everyone is connected to the meeting, and before considering the resolutions and bills we have before us today, we will consider the public comment. It will go as follows. Public comment must concern matters on the second reading and final passage calendars for possible action at a session of council. A speaker on any of those matters must sign up in order to testify. You must call 215-686-3406 by 3 p.m. the day before the session to sign up for public comment. When you call, we will take your name, phone number, the number of the legislative item you are commenting on, and whether you are in support of or against the legislation, and add your name to the list. We will then telephone each person on the list during the council session and invite them to our remote meeting. Today, I think we have ideal circumstances, so we're going to have 3 minutes. However, from time to time, that time limit may vary based on the volume of speakers, but today we'll have 3 minutes. But in order to be fair, for all those wishing to speak, I intend to hold faithfully to the established time limit once invited to the meeting and ask to begin your testimony. A timer will be started. We will monitor your remaining time throughout your testimony, and when there are 30 seconds remaining to your time, you will be reminded of this. Once your allotted time has passed, you will be asked to conclude your remarks, and shortly thereafter, you will be muted and disconnected from the remote meeting. Also reserve the right to limit the number of speakers where repetitious comments are being made on the same subject matter, which could affect callbacks for public comment at a meeting. One last thing, please be aware that this is a public meeting and is being recorded, and because the meeting is public, participants and viewers have no reasonable expectation of privacy. So by continuing to be in the meeting, you are consenting to being recorded. Mr. Decker, can you please read the name of our first speaker on our list?
Yes, Mr. President. The first speaker is Lindsay Schoonmaker, commenting on 210809.
Good morning. Just state your name for the record, and please proceed with your testimony.
Good morning. My name is Lindsay Schoonmaker, and I am here to speak on resolution number 210809. Thank you so much for hearing my comment, and to Councilmember Parker for putting forward this resolution. I'm a resident of Philadelphia and also a supervising attorney at Philadelphia VIP, a legal aid organization that matches low-income Philadelphians with pro bono attorneys for civil legal issues. At VIP, we fully support this resolution to spread awareness about the need for estate planning. We see hundreds of clients each year with title issues to their homes from lack of proper estate planning. We also see the need to ensure our seniors and other incapacitated folks are properly cared for when they can no longer care for themselves. Proper estate planning can resolve these issues, but there is a lack of awareness about the importance of these documents and how to attain them. VIP helps over 100 clients a year with estate planning. A client whose wife recently passed away with title to their home in her name alone was able to get title when a volunteer attorney of ours helped him probate his wife's estate. Because of how suddenly his wife died and because she did not have a will in place to protect her husband and twin boys who had been adopted, the process was tricky. When we were finally able to get the title issue resolved and into their name, our client quickly agreed to estate planning documents. And just last week, he told me how comfortable he was after working with VIP and getting all of his papers in order. He said his friends were also surprised at how he was getting everything in order, but he had learned from experience how important that is. He wants to leave his boys well cared for if something should happen to him too. So to deal with this at VIP, we recruit, train, and support volunteer attorneys to not just draft documents, but to counsel clients on what they really want and need in estate planning documents, and also to make sure those documents are properly executed. We provide template documents, trainings, and other resources, including notary services for our volunteers and clients. And we've had great success partnering with community partners, such as neighborhood groups like the Brewery Town Sharswood NAC, the outreach events you all put on, and other nonprofits like Rebuilding Together Philadelphia to host intake clinics and information sessions about estate planning. So we love the idea of spreading more information to promote estate planning and believe National Estate Planning Awareness Week is a great step in that direction. Thank you for your time and consideration of this resolution.
Thank you very much for your testimony. We appreciate it.
The next speaker is Sandra Dungy Glenn, commenting on 210-2681.
Good morning. Just state your name for the record, and please proceed with your testimony.
Good morning, Council President Clark and members of City Council. My name is Sandra Dungy Glenn, founding partner of the Collective Network and the Collective Investment Group. I'm here to support Bill number 210681, the Neighborhood Preservation Initiative. In November 2019, Taib Smith, Steve Sanders, and I brought together a group of experienced Black real estate developers and launched the collective. We've committed to support our 7 companies through advocacy and raising $100 million in capital to put into their projects. They've committed to and have a track record of doing projects, commercial, mixed use, for sale, and rental housing that produce financial returns and add assets that benefit existing residents instead of displacing them. The collective developers have a pipeline of over $300 million in projects. Our members are Mosaic, TPP Holdings, West Pouchin, Ujima, Wilson Drake, Smith & Roller, and BKP. This list will continue to grow, and you can learn more about us at thecollectivephl.com. I want to thank Council Members Sanchez, Jones, Johnson, Bass, Dom, and Green for meeting with us and supporting our work. We believe the process for real estate development must shift from top down to one that takes a more holistic view of a neighborhood's needs. NPI can be a great start in this direction. Our comments are based on research and our members' experience working in Philadelphia. We'd like to work with you to leverage private capital with NPI to maximize the impact on neighborhoods. NPI includes important priorities, and we have 4 recommendations as you implement year 1. First, we'd like to target the Accelerator Fund to provide credit enhancement and cover pre-development costs for developers whose projects have a quantifiable social impact. We recommend broadening the criteria for qualified projects, raising the guarantee limit, and increasing the investment amount. Prioritize projects that provide quantifiable impacts in the areas of employment, BIPOC business and homeownership, livable income, and access to essential services. Second, MPI should use comprehensive master planning to get the most benefit from each investment. Partner with residents and other local voices to ensure that new projects holistically address the specific needs of a given area. Third, expand the role of the land bank and streamline the process. The bill references certain use, but we believe it can be applied in a wider variety of situations to improve community stability and expand access to neighborhood-level wealth creation. Finally, MPI should apply research-based impact metrics to capture and address the social determinants of health. We've identified and mapped metrics that show the interplay between real estate and outcomes, including housing cost burdens, food deserts, lead exposure, and others. We're happy to partner as an independent third party to apply these metrics to MPI investments. We're delighted to work with you and further refine this roadmap to determine how best to put it into action. And we thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your testimony today.
The next speaker is the Reverend Gregory Holston, commenting on 210636.
Good morning. State your name for the record and please proceed with your testimony.
Good morning. My name is Reverend Gregory Holston. I am the Senior Advisor on Policy and Advocacy for the District Attorney's Office, and here to support the passage of Bill number 210636, what is called the Driver Equality Bill. Thankful for all the work that has been done around this bill, around dealing with this such difficult issue. The reality of driving while black as being a crime across the nation and in Philadelphia is a reality that most of us who are black have experienced in some way, in some manner, over the years. Many of us have given the talk to our children, particularly our black males, in reference to this reality. About 6 years ago, I was pastoring a church and we had a community forum around stop and frisk. And at that community forum, it was very volatile. The conversation was very heated, particularly when one member of that panel, a police officer, a police chief, said that white supremacy had no relationship to the police department. I think we've come a long way. I think we made some broad steps with this bill to come to the reality that racism and structural racism is a reality in our police department, and that we need to do and set policy to make change. Over 300,000 stops each year, 74% of them African American, 90% where no arrests are involved, less than 1% involve any capture of any guns. It seems the process is for years that racism and that black people are treated in a different manner and in a different way by our police department. And this bill signals, with the partnership of Councilperson Isaiah Thomas, all the leaders on council, former public defender Keir Bradford Gray, and our police commissioner Daniel Outlaw, coming together to address this issue in a real and tangible way that can make a difference in the lives of black and brown people in the city of Philadelphia. We've come a long way. We've taken some steps. We're responding in the right kinds of way. I gladly support this bill and see it not just as an end, but as a beginning of a real way for our police department and all of our law enforcement to really regain the trust of our black community in every way. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your testimony. We appreciate it.
The next speaker is Mickey Grant, commenting on 210636.
Good morning. State your name for the record and just proceed with your testimony.
Good morning, council members. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak. My name is Nikki Grant. I'm the policy director at Honest Dog Law Project. My comments will be very brief this morning. I just want to thank the council for moving forward with the driving equality bill, which will redirect police time and resources towards keeping Philadelphians safe while removing the negative interaction with police. The city has a very long history of stop and frisk and driving while black stops, which targets black communities, and this bill is an excellent way to address this problem. I am particularly excited that this bill will gather data about traffic stops and help us identify and correct police officers who do target black people for traffic stops. I want to particularly thank Councilmember Thomas for his leadership on this issue. And that's all I have to say, but thank you so much for moving forward with this bill. Have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. We appreciate it.
The final speaker for today, Mr. President, is Queen Judith Robinson, commenting on 210636A.
Good morning. State your name for the record and please proceed with your testimony.
Good morning. Queen Judith Robinson here to testify on bills numbers 210-635 and 210-636A. I want to focus on the part of the bill that talks about preventing racial disparities. As an African American woman, I agree with that 100%. But with over 400 murders in this city, mostly black people, now our women and children, I really don't want to hamper law enforcement as it relates to possibly reducing crime. So I want to focus on why so few criminals are being targeted, why so few criminals are found when all of these folks are being targeted for stops. Something is out of order where that many people could be stopped who happen to be African American, and we're not getting these criminals who are shooting up our rec centers and killing all over Philadelphia. They are, our cameras show they're getting in and out of vehicles. So I think we need to focus right there. Why are so many people being targeted who are not these folks who are criminals, murderers, in our communities? In addition, the bill talks about protect public safety. That's where I want to be. Protected by our law enforcement. So I want law enforcement to focus on even the smallest crime as it relates to the broken window theory. I'm talking about the broken tail light theory. These criminals are running around our community in and out of cars, shooting up in broad daylight. So as much as I don't want racial disparity as it relates to these targeted crimes, I want to do further research to find out why they're doing all of these targets of drivers, vehicles, but not finding criminals. That's where I want to focus right there. And I don't know how this bill could expound on that or expand on that, but I think we need to focus right there. How could that be? How could that be that we're not finding criminals that are running loose, driving around with illegal possession all over Philadelphia, wreaking havoc on our community? So as much as I want to make certain that, we're not being disrespected, I don't want law enforcement hampered in that regard. Can we please focus on why they're not getting these criminals off our streets, moving around in vehicles? Thank you very much for the time. I appreciate that, and I hope we can identify that area. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. We appreciate it. Is that it, Mr. Decker?
It is, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. That concludes our public comment session for the day. And we will be starting our calendar for our bills and resolutions on our second reading and final passage calendar. So we will start with resolution number 210601. Mr. Decker.
A resolution approving the appointment of William McCullough to the Philadelphia Water, Sewer, and Stormwater Rate Board.
Chair recognizes Councilman Johnson for a motion.
Council President, I would like to make a motion to withdraw this nomination.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and second that the resolution number 210601 be withdrawn. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. And resolution number 601 has been withdrawn. Thank you. Mr. Decker, please read the title of resolution number 210809.
A resolution recognizing October 18 to 24, 2021 as National Estate Planning Awareness Week.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and second that the resolution be adopted. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Ayes have it, and our resolution is adopted. Mr. Decker, please read the title of resolution number 210811.
A resolution recognizing the 7th Ward Tribute, an artistic installation project paying homage to the remarkable Black history of Philadelphia's 7th Ward for its dedication to preserving Black history and culture in Philadelphia.
Chair again recognizes Councilmember Johnson for a motion.
Thank you, Council President. I make a motion to adopt the resolution.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and properly second that the resolution be adopted. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted. Mr. Decker, please read the title of resolution number 210812.
A resolution honoring Ann Ewers on the occasion of her retirement as President and CEO of the Kimmel Center Incorporated for 14 years of outstanding service to the Philadelphia cultural community and to the entire city of Philadelphia.
Thank you. Chair again recognizes Councilmember Johnson for a motion.
Council President, I move for the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second that the resolution be adopted. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted. Mr. Decker, please read the title of resolution number 210813.
A resolution also naming the 2000 block of Christian Street, Father John Vanderpeer Way, to honor the life and legacy of Father John Vanderpeer.
Thank you. Chair again recognizes Councilmember Johnson for a motion.
Council President, I move for the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted. Mr. Decker, please read the title of resolution number 210814.
A resolution also naming the 2300 block of South 21st Street, Ronald R. Donatucci Sr. Way, to honor the life and legacy of Ronald R. Donatucci Sr.
And the chair recognizes Councilmember Johnson for a motion on the resolution.
Thank you, Council President. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded that the resolution be adopted. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted. Mr. Decker, 210816.
A resolution honoring and congratulating Champion of the Week, Northeast High School Boys Volleyball Team on their successful 2020-2021 season and their Philadelphia Public League Championship win.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilmember Thomas for a motion.
Thank you, Council President. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted. Mr. Decker, please read the title of resolution number 210817.
A resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Land Bank to dispose of 2553 Kern Street located in the 1st Councilmanic District.
Chair recognizes Councilman Squilla for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second that the resolution be adopted. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted. Mr. Decker, 210818.
A resolution designating the week of Sunday, October 10 through Saturday, October 16, 2021 as Italian American Heritage Week in the city of Philadelphia and honoring Joe Piscopo as the Grand Marshal of the 2021 Philadelphia Italian American Parade. This year, the parade is also dedicated to the life and legacy of Anna C. Verna, longtime city council member, a lifelong supporter of the Italian American Parade.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilman Squilla.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask for the approval of the amendment.
A second.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. I move for the adoption of the resolution. Apologize.
Okay. You got it, Councilman. It's been moved and seconded that the resolution be adopted. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted. Mr. Decker, please read the title of resolution number 210819.
A resolution honoring Frances Pillar for her dedicated service to the city of Philadelphia.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Bass for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second that the resolution be adopted. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted. Mr. Decker, 210820.
A resolution calling on the U.S. Department of Education to resolve bureaucratic errors within the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program, which have led to the exclusion of qualified veterans and other public servants.
And the chair recognizes Councilman O for a motion.
Thank you, Council President. I move for adoption of the resolution.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and properly second that the resolution be adopted. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted. Mr. Decker, read the title of bill number 210636A.
An ordinance amending Title 12 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Traffic Code to clarify the appropriate methods and circumstances of enforcement of traffic violations in order to provide for the fair and transparent administration of traffic violations, prevent racial disparities, and protect public safety, and making certain technical changes.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilman Thomas.
Thank you, Council President. I just want to make a few remarks before we go ahead and vote on this bill. First of all, just want to talk about the data and the problem a little bit, and I appreciate everyone's input and testimony today. In a 12-month period, looking at the year of 2018, Philadelphia police found illegal drugs or guns in less than 1% of traffic stops. As black drivers were 34% less likely than white drivers to be carrying anything illegal, but significantly more likely to be pulled over than our white counterpart. The data showed that 72% of black Philadelphians have been pulled over. About 90% of driving stops are for code violations that don't even warrant a ticket. We are in a position right now where we are seeing a disproportionate number of people being pulled over, 300,000 people specifically at the year we looked at. And when you found that less than 1% of those stops led to some type of contraband and or a weapon, we see that there's an issue there. Now, I know a lot of folks are talking about this issue around public safety and impacting public safety. The 7 different violations that we are looking at are not violations that impact public safety. I also want people to keep in mind over the last 2, 4, 6 or so years that we've been seeing an increase in crime as it relates to the city of Philadelphia. The current practices were already in place. So I don't see any way that this bill would have a negative impact on public safety here in the city of Philadelphia. The driving equality agenda is something that will reclassify certain motor vehicle code violations as a primary violation, which allows an officer to conduct a traffic stop and essentially name them now secondary violations, in which traffic stops will no longer be used as the primary means of enforcement. These are not things that impact public safety. So we're not looking at things like running a stop sign. We're not looking at things like speeding.
This
we're
is
not
six,
looking at.
Okay, it comes before 210-635.
Hold on one second. Somebody needs to be.
That's my good friend. He is. I give him a pass. Municipalities across the country are developing police reform legislation, and it's been an honor for us to essentially work with a number of different partners. So in the midst of crafting this legislation, I don't want folks to think that this was a one-off initiative. This was a bill that was introduced nearly a year ago. My team worked with the law enforcement, along with the mayor's office and the managing director's office, to put together a working group to decide exactly what we felt like we can do effectively once we all agreed that this was a significant issue that disproportionately impact people of color. Similar to the Bailey consent decree, the driving equality agenda will require police to collect and report information as it relates to traffic stop. The police department will maintain digital records of who's conducted the stop, who was stopped, where the driver was stopped, the reason for the stop, and whether or not police action was taken, and if contraband or a weapon was discovered. This information will be published on a regular basis and searchable for everybody. So not only will the bill look to address some of the disproportionate number of stops we see in people of color, the bill will also have a transparency component that's going to require a certain level of communication with myself, with other members of council, and with the general public. The reason I think that that's significantly important is because what we are trying to do is show that we are attempting to do things a little different. This is 2021. We can't do things the same way we did in the past. We have to be more innovative. We have to continue to reinvent ourselves, and we have to continue to put ourselves in a position where we're listening to the constituents that elected us all and responding to the concerns that's been communicated to us and moving in a way that's data-driven. So I want to thank all of my colleagues for your support throughout the course of this process. I've talked to many of you throughout the course of the last couple months. I would love to have your vote for this bill, and I think this is something that is historic, that can put us in a position where we're addressing a systemic issue that's been plaguing Black communities, not just in Philadelphia, but all across the country. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman. I believe Councilman O had some comment. Chair recognizes Councilman O.
Yes, I do. Thank you very much, Council President. And I do want to commend my colleague, Council Member Isaiah Thomas, for his innovative efforts. I do not agree with him, and I will be voting against the bill. I do want to explain, however, my reasons, particularly addressing our district attorney's office, which I'm very troubled by their statements. Let me say first that the bill is most likely preempted by state law. Secondly, is probably an illegal bill. And particularly the motor vehicle code as articulated in a letter to this body, July 13th, by State Representative Martina White, citing the Pennsylvania Vehicle Code, which states in its provisions that the code shall be applicable and uniform throughout the Commonwealth and in all political subdivisions in this Commonwealth, and no local authority shall enact or enforce any ordinance on a matter covered by the provisions of this title unless expressly authorized, and this body is not authorized. The next thing is that this bill makes secondary violations out of, for example, driving without a current registration for up to 60 days, because it's not making it legal. It's still illegal. It's preventing the police from stopping a vehicle and effectively even ticketing that vehicle for up to 60 days. It also prevents the police from stopping a vehicle that is driving without emissions or inspection stickers and other things. It does not, it's for all vehicles, trucks, cars, buses. It has nothing to do with the race of the person. The person could be white, black, Asian, Hispanic. The police are, according to this bill, unable to stop those vehicles. And even if they have insurance, their insurance is ineffective. So if they hit someone, if they get into an accident, if they hit someone on a bicycle or a child, they effectively have no coverage. That is something that would harm the driver as well as the person who is hit. I do think for public safety, it's important that our police be able to safeguard our public highways and roads by stopping vehicles that are a danger to the public because they're not inspected, not registered, and not effectively covered by insurance. The final thing I want to say, particularly because of what the district attorney's office has said, I oppose, and I have outspokenly said, I am against improper use of stop and frisk. That's unconstitutional. It's racially oriented. Stop and frisk has a legitimate purpose, provided there is reasonable suspicion, articulable suspicion that a crime has been committed and that the person is armed and dangerous. Then the police have an ability to stop the person and pat them down, not for contraband, just to see if there's a weapon. However, police departments, including in Philadelphia, have used stop and frisk unconstitutionally and improperly to simply stop people in neighborhoods, pat them down for drugs, for contraband, for weapon, whatever they want. That is a gross misuse. It's unconstitutional. I oppose it. Everyone should. However, stopping vehicles that are violating the state traffic code is not that. They are stopping vehicles if there is a disproportionate stopping of vehicles that are not in violation of the driving code. That would be improper. That is as illegal as any other thing. But if they are properly stopping vehicles that are in violation of the driving code, there's nothing wrong with that. And if the insinuation or if the implication is that there are police officers falsely stopping vehicles and using traffic code violations as an excuse, we should know about that and we should correct that. However, a police officer who is intent on stopping someone wrongfully could simply say they're driving recklessly. I think what we want to do is to make the public safe by enforcing the laws. We don't want to pass illegal bills and certainly don't want to subject people in our poorest of neighborhoods to being hit by a vehicle that is uninsured. For that reason, I will be voting against the bill. Thank you very much.
Council President, I have a point.
Council President, may I be?
Oh, Councilwoman Bass had a question. Councilwoman Bass.
Thank you, Mr. President. I do want to, number one, I want to thank the author, the sponsor of this bill, Councilmember Thomas, because I know that in all things that he does, his heart is certainly in the right place, and he's really trying to make a difference for the citizens of Philadelphia, and particularly for those who have had the unfortunate experience of being stopped really without cause. I overall support this piece of legislation, but I did have a question that I would like for the sponsor to clarify, particularly around the registration. And so I did check in with my own insurance agent prior to this vote now to ask specifically about the insurance effect on registration. And Councilman Thomas, you are indeed right. I was told by my insurance provider that the registration is, it is a requirement, but it would not affect the coverage if you were actually in an accident. However, my question is, can you give us some additional detail about the idea that this is, basically, if you're operating your car without a valid registration, you're operating a motor vehicle illegally. And so can you talk to us about the idea that you are operating a vehicle that is not properly registered and is therefore operating illegally on the streets within the city of Philadelphia. I was hoping that you could address that.
Council President, may I address the concerns?
Please. Yes,
Okay.
Council.
Thank you, Council President. Thank you, colleagues, for your questions, and thank you for this dialogue. Councilmember Bass specifically, we've been having this conversation for some time, so I appreciate you bringing it to the floor because the same questions you have, other constituents in the city of Philadelphia have. As far as the valid registration, you're absolutely right. When someone does not have a registration, it does not have a negative impact on their insurance, and something can still be done as it relates to if incidents take place, insurance can still be covered. Under this legislation, I just want to be very clear. If someone is driving and they do not have registration and their registration has expired, they can still be ticketed, right? Often your registration is ticketed by the Philadelphia Parking Authority. Often your registration is ticketed by law enforcement officers who might be foot patrol officers who might have just walked past your car. You also can look at registration being something that's enforced as it relates to the violation once someone has been pulled over. So similar to a seatbelt, no one is saying that it's not legal to drive around without a seatbelt, but when you look at the type of enforcement, all we're asking the city of Philadelphia to do is to look at the enforcement mechanisms as it relates to these different traffic violations. Now, if someone has committed a crime and there's some type of reasonable cause to be able to pull someone over, none of that will be impacted by this bill. So the idea that public safety will be directly impacted would suggest that our best means of fighting crime is to randomly pull people over and hope that we're lucky to be able to find some type of weapon or contraband. I think that it would be naive of us in the year of 2021 with all the technology and different means and mechanisms that we have to be able to say that our best means of impacting public safety is to randomly pull people over because they might have committed a traffic violation and their skin is a certain color. We know that there are other counterparts, and I want to move into addressing some of the things that Councilmember O said. Councilmember O talked about the idea that people who are being pulled over are people who committed violations. I wouldn't argue that, but my argument would be when you look at the percentage of people in the city of Philadelphia and you look at the people who commit violations based on Councilmember O's logic, he's basically suggested that only black people break the law because only black people are being pulled over. And if you talk to white folks in the city of Philadelphia, which I've talked to plenty of them, their registration expires. Their emission stickers expire. They just don't have the same negative interaction with law enforcement that their black counterparts do. I want to address a couple other things that Councilmember O talked about. He brought up a letter that was sent from a state legislator that was actually dated January 13th, like he said, but that letter was actually sent to council today. So I want to be clear for the record that that letter was sent to council today while it was dated January 13th. I also want to be clear for the record that the letter was inaccurate. It talked about 9 different violations that we were looking to move from primary reasons to secondary reasons, and that's just not true. There aren't 9 violations. There were never 9 violations, and the information in the letter is not accurate. On top of that, the letter also suggests that the city would lose revenue based on finding and feeing poor people and people of color. The Department of Justice looked at what took place in Ferguson and actually said that what was happening in Ferguson was wrong. It was a civil rights violation, and it was something that should be addressed. So for that letter to insinuate that we should continue to find poor people and people of color to generate revenue for the city of Philadelphia is the exact type of institutional racism that we essentially do not want to have in this city. And it's extremely disappointing that my colleague would say in one breath that he feels like stop and frisk is a significant problem, and in that exact same breath encourage us to be able to generate revenue off of the backs of poor people and people of color. I want to say again, thank you to all of my colleagues for your support throughout the course of this process. I want to be very clear that I've had dialogue with my colleagues, some who communicated they can vote for it, some who communicated they can't vote for it, and others who communicated the concern. But I do want to make sure that we're having authentic dialogue as it relates to what we're doing, and we're not playing politics on an issue that violates people's civil rights. I would be more than willing to have a conversation with any state legislator who feels like that this bill is illegal. We've talked to a number of different lawyers, including the public defender's office, the city solicitor's office, as well as multiple attorneys who do say that the city of Philadelphia has our own right as a county to determine how we enforce motor vehicle code violations. This bill will not change the law. This bill will not say that something is no longer illegal. This bill will only communicate how we as a municipality enforce these things that are essentially illegal. Thank you, Council President. I appreciate it. And I'm here to answer any other questions that my colleagues may have before we look to vote on this bill.
Council President, I had an earlier point of information.
I'm sorry, Mr. President.
Yes, Councilwoman.
I just wanted to say, number one, I wanted to thank the council member for his explanation. I still have some reservations, but the council member has provided detailed statistics in terms of the issue that I'm most concerned about, which is the invalid registration, expired registration. And in those statistics, it states that about 7% of these stops are connected to a registration. So it's not the biggest issue, but still nonetheless, it is an important issue to me. I am going to support the bill today, but only with the agreement. Councilmember Thomas did say that he would continue to monitor the registration numbers and pay attention, and we will revisit this after we have enough data to see if this is a significant problem that we really need to address in a more robust way. So I am going to, stand in support of where the council member is today, but with reservations, and he has agreed to work with me on those reservations in the future. So thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Green, you had a point of order. Sorry.
Yeah, I had a point of information. I just wanted to follow up a couple of things, and I'm gonna make sure that my understanding of the bill is correct. In looking at the bill, which is the most recent amendment that I see both the enforcement of primary violations, which allows a law enforcement officer may initiate a vehicle stop and at their discretion cite a driver for a violation, and then enforcement of a secondary violation. It provides information where an officer may initiate a motor vehicle stop for a secondary violation observed within the city of Philadelphia. My understanding of Councilmember Thomas, if you can correct me, that you worked very closely with the police department in reference to drafting this legislation. And so my understanding, based on your work with the police department as well as the city solicitor's office, it was deemed that this draft that was before us today is legal from their perspective, both from the police department and them saying that this will not impact their ability to enforce the law in the city of Philadelphia based on how this law has been amended, as well as the city solicitor's office. Am I correct in that perspective?
Council President, if you don't mind me answering, Councilmember Green is absolutely correct in his analysis of the legislation and the work that's been done to lead up to this point.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman O, I think you wanted to be recognized again.
Yes, thank you very much, Council President. I'd like to make a clarification. When I said effectively covered, an insurance policy is a contract between, for example, me and my insurance company. There are conditions to the coverage. So if I get on the road in violation of state law with a car while I have expired registration, I haven't gotten an inspection, things like that, I have coverage. However, if I get into an accident and the insurance company finds that I was driving with those violations, they can choose to not cover me for violating our agreement that my car and I were not supposed to be on the road. That's effectively the lack of coverage. So while it is technically correct to say, you can say that you still have an insurance policy and you have coverage, that coverage is at risk. And for those who don't believe that insurance companies are eager to give up money, you're taking a great risk, and I would say on the greater side of not being covered because your car was in violation of the state motor vehicle road and you were not supposed to be driving it. Therefore, they have a right and ability to deny coverage to you. That's just my clarification. And with that, I think we all understand what's at stake, and we're all ready to vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilman.
One more point of clarity, Council President, please.
Chair recognizes Councilman Thomas.
I just want to say, again, thank you to my colleagues. And, I respectfully disagree with Councilmember O's perspective of this particular issue. And I also want to, just for the record and for public consumption, communicate that I'm very accessible. We've had multiple dialogues with a lot of our colleagues who felt like the bill was problematic and had questions and concerns around the bill. And most of my colleagues decided to have that conversation before we came for a vote today. So I feel like if Councilmember O, as well as other people who he communicated to us, and if they had legit concerns about the bill and they really felt like that this was something that would impact the public safety of the citizens of Philadelphia, it's probably not best to wait until the day of when we're actually going to vote for it to be able to have that conversation. So all of these questions could have been answered. We could have put a council member O in a position where we could have had this conversation so he understands what we're trying to do, as well as what we're not trying to do, as well as any other letter that might be referenced here today. So thank you, Council President. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to provide a moment of point of clarity. Thank you.
Council President, one last point of information.
You're recognized as Councilman Green.
Thank you. And reading through the bill once again, Councilmember Thomas in his legislation makes reference to various matters under the state code. And my understanding, I just make sure I understand fully, that at no point is a police officer in the city of Philadelphia prohibited from enforcing the state code within the city of Philadelphia. They are doing enforcement for a primary violation through a citation, or they're doing a enforcement of a secondary violation, which may enable that officer to initiate a motor vehicle stop for a secondary violation. So my understanding, my reading of the legislation is that officers within the city of Philadelphia have the full ability to enforce all of the traffic laws within the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania in the city of Philadelphia. The difference is doing an enforcement by way of a citation as opposed to a vehicle stop. Am I correct in that reading?
Councilmember Green, again, is correct. And we are, as a council body, continuing to work on different innovative ways of enforcement of motor vehicle code violations, such as addressing noise ordinances and other issues that constituents of Philadelphia have communicated to us as a concern. So thank you, Councilmember Green, for the clarity. And thank you, Council President, for allowing us to address this issue in depth. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. That's it. The People's House always has a very transparent public conversation about these matters. It's very important for us to do this. Okay. Mr. Decker, read the title of the bill again, just for the public.
Bill number 210636A is an ordinance amending Title 12 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Traffic Code to clarify the appropriate methods and circumstances of enforcement of traffic violations in order to provide for the fair and transparent administration of traffic violations, prevent racial disparities, and protect public safety, and making certain technical changes.
Thank you. This bill has been read on 2 different days. The question now is, shall the bill pass finally? And Mr. Decker, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass.
Aye.
Councilwoman Brooks.
Aye.
Councilman Dom.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gautier.
A very enthusiastic aye.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Aye.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gim is voting aye. Councilman Johnson.
Aye.
Councilman Jones is voting aye. Councilman O.
No.
Councilman O'Neill.
Nay.
Councilwoman Parker.
Aye.
Councilwoman Quinones Sanchez.
Aye.
Councilman Squilla.
Aye.
Councilman Thomas.
Aye.
Council President Clark.
Aye. Ayes are 15, the nays are 2. Majority of all members present, voting in the affirmative, the bill passes. Mr. Decker, please read the title of bill number 210635.
An ordinance amending Title 12 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Traffic Code to require the maintenance and reporting of certain information related to vehicle stops.
This bill having been read on 2 different days. The question now, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Decker, let me correct that vote. It was 14-2. I forgot that Councilman Heenan wasn't here. That for the record on bill number 210-636A. The vote is 14-2. Thank you. On 210-635, this bill having been read on 2 different days, the question now, shall the bill pass finally? The Decker, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass.
Aye.
Councilwoman Brooks.
Aye.
Councilman Dom.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gautier.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Aye.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gimm is voting aye. Councilman Johnson.
Aye.
Councilman Jones is voting aye. Councilman O.
No.
Councilman O'Neill.
Aye.
Councilwoman Parker.
Aye.
Councilwoman Quinones Sanchez.
Aye.
Councilman Squilla.
Aye.
Councilman Thomas.
Aye.
Council President Clark.
Aye, the ayes are 15 and nays are 1. Majority of all members having voted in the affirmative, the bill passes. Mr. Decker, please read the title of Bill number 210-681.
An ordinance approving the 2021-2022 Neighborhood Preservation Initiative Program Statement and Budget, which addresses the expenditure of $100 million, various agencies in the first year of the Neighborhood Preservation Initiative Program, and approving a substantial amendment to the Annual Action Plan 2021 through 2022, the city's Consolidated Housing and Housing-Related Expenditures Plan, to incorporate the program statement and budget into the action plan.
Thank you. This bill having been read on 2 different days, the question now is, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass.
Aye.
Councilwoman Brooks.
Aye.
Councilman Dom.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gautier.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Aye.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gimm is voting aye. Councilman Johnson.
Aye.
Councilman Jones is voting aye. Councilman O.
Aye.
Councilman O'Neill.
Aye.
Councilwoman Parker.
Aye.
Councilwoman Quinones Sanchez.
Aye.
Councilman Squilla.
Aye.
Councilman Thomas.
Aye.
Council President Clark.
Aye, the ayes are 16 and nays are 0. Majority of all members are present. Voting in the affirmative, the bill passes. Mr. Decker, please read the title of 210-682.
An ordinance authorizing the city treasurer on behalf of the city to enter into an amendment to an agreement with Citizens Bank of Pennsylvania for provision of payroll banking services to the city.
Thank you. This bill having been read on 2 different days, the question now is, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass.
Aye.
Councilwoman Brooks.
Aye.
Councilman Dom.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gautier.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Aye.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gimm is voting aye. Councilman Johnson.
Aye.
Councilman Jones is voting aye. Councilman O.
Aye.
Councilman O'Neill.
Aye.
Councilwoman Parker.
Aye.
Councilwoman Quinones Sanchez.
Aye.
Councilman Squilla.
Aye.
Councilman Thomas.
Aye.
Council President Clark.
Aye, the ayes are 16 and nays are 0. Majority of all members present. Voting in the affirmative, the bill passes. Mr. Decker, please read the title of Bill number 210-684.
An ordinance authorizing generally the continued issuance and sale by the City of Philadelphia of gas works revenue notes of the city, prescribing the form of notes and providing for their execution and payment, pledging certain revenues of the gas works as security, adopting a rate covenant, and directing the imposition and collection of rates and charges sufficient to comply therewith, prescribing the conditions precedent to the issuance of specific series of notes, including a resolution passed by the bond committee, providing for establishment of credit support for notes, providing for designation of a fiscal agent and sinking fund depository, providing for the establishment of a sinking fund and its management, providing for remedies upon default, and providing for amendments and modifications.
This bill having been read on 2 different days, the question now is, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass?
Aye.
Councilwoman Brooks?
Aye.
Councilman Dom?
Aye.
Councilwoman Gautier?
Aye.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson?
Aye.
Councilman Green?
Aye.
Councilwoman Gim is voting aye. Councilman Johnson?
Aye.
Councilman Jones is voting aye. Councilman O?
Aye.
Councilman O'Neill?
Aye.
Councilwoman Parker?
Aye.
Councilwoman Quinones Sanchez?
Aye.
Councilman Squilla?
Aye.
Councilman Thomas?
Aye.
Council President Clark?
Aye, the ayes are 16, the nays are 0. Majority of all members present voting in the affirmative, the bill passes. Mr. Decker, you have any additional resolution?
A resolution authorizing the Committee on Housing, Neighborhood Development, and the Homeless to conduct hearings to identify barriers and solutions to permanently preserving community gardens and open spaces in the city of Philadelphia, introduced by Councilwoman Brooks.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Brooks.
Thank you, Council President. I want to take a moment to thank my colleagues for supporting my office through the introduction, passage, and now enforcement of the Renters Access Act, which went into effect in the city of Philadelphia yesterday. I especially want to thank Council members Gautier, Gim, Heenan, and Thomas, who co-sponsored this legislation and were early supporters of the bills. And I want to thank the Community Legal Services for their early partnership and expertise in crafting this legislation. The Renters Access Act regulates the tenant screening and application process so that applicants are given a fair shot at securing housing. It ensures that families are not forced into homelessness or into dangerous living situations solely because of an old eviction filing, low credit score, and an inability to pay bills during COVID-19 emergency period, and inaccurate credit report, or another incomplete depiction of an applicant's financial situation. And when there's transparency and accuracy built into tenant screening process, both renters and landlords have a clear picture of how decisions are being made and why. I see the enforcement of this legislation as an important step towards achieving housing justice and racial justice in Philadelphia. What this law asks landlords to do is engage in a holistic assessment of applicants. This breaks down many of the structural barriers that have kept poor and working class people of color out of the rental housing market for decades. And now eviction records disproportionately affect and impact Black women and their families, and can make it nearly impossible to obtain private rental housing. This law evens the playing field and gives them a fair shot. My team has been working hard with local stakeholders to create clear guidelines and outreach materials so renters are aware of their rights, and landlords have clear information on what is expected of them. We have already begun circulating these guidelines and will be uploaded shortly to the L&I Philadelphia Commission on Health and Relations and Fair Housing Commission's websites. I want to invite my colleagues and the public to share these resources so that these laws are widely and fairly enforced, so our constituents are guaranteed clear pathways to securing rental housing. Thank you so much, Council President, and I move for the adoption of this resolution.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
There are no other resolutions on the final passage calendar, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. That concludes our calendar for today. And prior to recognizing members regarding speeches, I just want to note for the record, at this time, we will use the chat feature available on Microsoft Teams to allow members to signify that they wish to be recognized. In order to comply with the Sunshine Act, the chat feature must only be used for this particular purpose. So with that said, speeches on behalf of the minority, Chair recognizes Councilwoman Brooks.
Thank you, Council President. This is short and sweet. I want to congratulate my colleague, Councilmember Isaiah Thomas, on all the hard work around this driver equity bill. You know, he has worked really hard in making sure this is possible for Philadelphians. So congratulations, Councilmember Thomas, on this victory, and have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilwoman. A lot of work went into it. It's a good bill. Councilman O, did you wish to be recognized, or am I reading my?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Chair recognizes Councilman O.
Thank you, Council President. Today I introduced a resolution, the result of a arson upon the house of a community leader. Council members Quinones Sanchez and council members Squilla and myself were at a press conference, and they deal with this issue constantly, and I try to support them as best I can. They're intimately involved with the community. In this instance, this woman came out of her home to confront drug dealers on her block that were giving away free samples of heroin in an effort to market their product, turn that corner into a drug dealing location. And for that, she received a phone call while she was not at home, but her child was at home, that the front of her house was on fire. And there's a video of it. That was a couple weeks ago. The persons who did this have been, there are people who can identify them, but the investigation goes on. This is an issue where I think it is critical that the city leave no stone unturned to ensure that people understand this is not a new day in Philadelphia where you start attacking community leaders and residents who are trying to live in a decent community, setting their homes on fire. I urge the administration to issue a $20,000 reward for information leading to the arrest of these perpetrators and information leading to those who were behind them. This has to be a priority in our city. Our citizens are watching, our community leaders are watching, and the criminals are watching to see what we are going to do. This woman is concerned about her safety. I will also make this point. We will not be able to address crime and murder in this city if we solely focus a large portion on solving murders and investigations. You will be overwhelmed with them. Prevention is critical in law enforcement to provide for public safety, and we need to do that. In this case, there are active criminals. They are out there, and this has to be a priority in our police department, in our city, to ensure the safety of our citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Chair recognizes Councilman O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Last week, both Councilman Green and I had excused absences to attend the Pennsylvania Municipal League meeting in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And if Councilman Thomas is looking for a champion of the week, and I know he always comes up with one, he would do well to pick Councilman Derek Green, who served as president this past year at the Pennsylvania Municipal League under difficult circumstances with the pandemic, and just hit it out of the park during the entire conference that he chaired. Some difficult technology issues. He was right on, keeping the crowd calm, and he was flawless. And I've attended over 30 of these conferences. I was president twice, once elected and once the board asked me to fill a unexpired term. And it's not an easy task. And on neither of those occasions did I do nearly as well as Councilman Green did last week. So I just want to congratulate him personally. I was proud. He made Philadelphia proud. And I know Councilman Thomas, not everyone's an athlete that gets the champion of the week. And if you're looking for somebody, you'll do very well with our colleague, Councilman Green. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman, and congratulations, Councilman Green. And speaking on behalf of the majority, Councilman Green.
Thank you, Council President. Thank you to my colleague, Councilmember O'Neill, who has provided a lot of wisdom in his leadership involved in not only Pennsylvania Municipal League and also National League of Cities, where he served as a past president for both those organizations, following in your footsteps and the footsteps of my former boss council member, Marion Tasco. Both of you have been leaders in promoting the city of Philadelphia around the Commonwealth and around the country. So thank you for your kind words. I just wanted to make a point that the city of Philadelphia has made a lot of great strides in reference to diversity. Just yesterday, myself and a number of other members of council had the opportunity to attend the 45th anniversary for the launch of the Philadelphia Gay News, and Mark Siegel has been an activist and a journalist, and we've made a lot of strides in reference to diversity, from gender, in reference to orientation, in reference to ethnicity. The last barrier that I think that we need to really move forward in reference to diversity is in reference to those that have physical and learning differences. As we go into next year, we'll be moving forward with the Americans with Disability Act transition plan for the city of Philadelphia to make our city hall as most open as possible for those that have physical and learning differences, as well as our entire city. And I'm a strong proponent of this work because many of you know that I have a son on the autism spectrum. This weekend, we will have our annual Walk Now for Autism Speaks walk at 9 a.m. at Citizens Bank Park. Last year, it was virtual. This year, we're back in person walking around Citizens Bank Park. It looks like it's going to be a great fall day this Saturday. So I will be out there with my family and all the other supporters and friends who try to lift up those that have a physical learning difference and help them in reference to the work that they're trying to do in their own lives, and help them to have great careers and lives in our phenomenal city as we continue to push forward with greater diversity, especially with those that have physical and learning differences. So if you are around on Saturday, please join me at Citizens Bank Park, 9 a.m. for the Walk Now for Autism Speaks walk. Look forward to seeing you, and thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman. Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker.
Thank you, Mr. President. Let me start, Mr. President, by adding my voice to the choir. Councilmember Green, congratulations on all of the work and leadership that you have provided via the Pennsylvania League along with the NLC. It has served our city well, so congratulations to you, and thank you, Councilmember O'Neill, as well. I also want to congratulate Councilmember Kendra Brooks. Last night, she and I think Councilmember Gilmore Richardson also participated. We were on a Zoom with the We Dream Black group, along with the National Domestic Workers of America, and it was a pretty powerful celebration, and it was in essence to lift up the resolution that Councilmember Brooks introduced and that we passed, establishing the Dorothy Bolden Day here in Philadelphia. So Councilmember Kendra Brooks, thank you, and on behalf of all of the matriarchs in my family, thank you for working to lift up their livelihood, and to Councilmember Quinones Sanchez for her early work with the legislation. Now I want to just note that I got a call during our council that we lost a Philadelphian who had done a great deal of work for each of us in the area of photography. And we know how important photographers are. We think about the historic photo with Brother Malcolm and Dr. King. We think about Dr. King and Rabbi Heschel, and the power that photographers have in memorializing history, Mr. President. And here in our great city of Philadelphia, I know I'm going to tell my age. If you know photographers, particularly in the Black community, you know John, who passed away years ago. If you've ever taken a prom picture and you went to Essence, that means you know Wash. I call him my Omega Man photographer. And I called Councilmember Bass during the session because I couldn't think of the name that I was missing from Germantown Avenue. And that was called her and Charmaine Matlock Turner, and they were both like, George Butler, memorializing families and very important days in our city. Well, I want to note for the record that we lost our main man, Marty Register from Leaping Lion Photography. Every picture I ever took, Mr. President, when I needed the picture, I needed the headshot before I had the money. Did you hear what I just said, Mr. President? I needed the headshot for the fundraising invitation so that I can earn the money needed to pay him, and he took the shot.
Yeah.
I want to say to his family, I want to say to his life partner, Kim Perry, I want to say to his sister, Dee Registers Fox, thank you for sharing him. I want to say to his partner in photography, it is not perfect when you have 5 pimples and it's the day of the shoot. He calls in Ellen Conway to tag team with him, and Ellen would do your makeup while Marty took your pictures. Marty, we love you. Leaping Lion, thank you for what you did for us, and we will keep you and your family in our prayers, and we will work with all members of council and make sure that we get a resolution done honoring his work in our great city. I also want to finally just note for the record that I thank VIP. Lindsay came on doing public comment to talk about the estate planning workshop that we will be hosting next Wednesday, October the 20th, virtually at 6:30 p.m. For anyone talking about the need to preserve and build generational wealth, particularly in Black and Brown communities, one of the most unspoken about issue that needs to be addressed is the issue of estate planning. And when we talk about issues like tangled titles, that I'm honored that my team and I have been working to address since I became a member of the Pennsylvania House back in 2005, and people started walking in that office, and we knew that they couldn't take advantage of services in the city because they weren't the owner of record. We are now going to work on providing people with access to those professionals who can help them develop a will so that they can understand what power of attorney is. We're going to give them a booklet that we used in the Pennsylvania House where they can collect all of their information and put it together. And so I'm looking forward to it. National Estate planning month is extremely important, and anyone who is talking about preventing gentrification, that's not only simply about the cost of property, but it's also home preservation, neighborhood stabilization, and how we build and pass along generational wealth. And because many folks haven't been wealthy enough to have an accountant and an attorney, on hand for what they need to do with their personal business, we've seen a lot of generational wealth leave our communities. So we are not going to stop addressing this issue. It's not sexy, but Lord knows it's substantive. Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, colleagues.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Our hearts and prayer goes out to the family of Marty. Always a upbeat kind of person, I'll tell you. Be missed. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Fernona Sanchez.
Thank you, Council President. Yeah, no, Marty was a staple at many, many, many events. So to his family, thank you for their service. Want to also congratulate Councilmember Thomas for his work on this driving bill. Anytime you have a good debate, it means you're doing good things when you're asking the tough questions and the tenseful conversations about how we change the narrative. So congrats on the work and and the work to be done, because ultimately the bill this is the beginning of a process, not the end of it. It's how you implement it and monitor it that will be telling. Just want to again highlight and thank all of my colleagues who've participated in many of the Hispanic Month activities, particularly Councilman Member O, who really has, between the Feria del Libro and Viva Latino, has done a really good job this year highlighting some of the Latino culture and events. So I want to personally thank him, but thank all of my colleagues. This afternoon, we started this about 4 years ago. We will have a Latinos in Government reception in the City Hall courtyard. I'm along with City Solicitor Cortez, Deputy Mayor Cynthia Figueroa, and a number of deputy commissioners who've been promoted over the last couple of years. If you haven't met some of them, Janira Barroso, we have Richard Montanez, Orlando Rendon. And this year we've also included some of the highest ranking members of the public safety portfolio. Are captains, both happen to be female, Captain Maria Rodriguez and Captain Cece Ortiz. So go figure. But all the folks participating. So any of my council colleagues who are around 5 o'clock, if you want to stop by the courtyard and just say thank you and share with us. We have 2 local Latino vendors, Loco Lucho and Visa Peru. And we absolutely want to thank our sponsor, Edisori and Associates, for helping us pull this little recognition of folks just getting together. So the good weather is because Latinos are getting together outside. Don't think Mother Nature wasn't in cahoots with us. So enjoy today. Thank you, Council.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson. I think we wanted to.
Thank you, Council President. My apologies. I must be excused from the session as I have the Local Government Advisory Committee meeting with the United States EPA at 12 p.m. Okay. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Let the record reflect the Councilwoman. Thank you, Councilwoman. Next up, Chair recognizes Councilman Thomas.
Thank you, Council President. I just want to take a moment to thank again my colleagues for passing this historic legislation today. I appreciate your support. I want to start by thanking some folks that are not my colleagues. Then I want to go into my colleagues. Thank you to USA Today and the Philadelphia Inquirer for endorsing this legislation. Of course, thank you to the Public Defender's Office for being a part of our work group, as well as former Chief Public Defender Kira Badford-Gray. Thank you to Power, Professor Woods, Dr. Cooper, and CASA Local 502. The Philadelphia Federation of Teachers and Unite Here for your endorsement letters, Malcolm Jenkins and the Players Coalition for your support, Richard Hooker and the Teamsters Local 623 for your support, Mayor Biss for your testimony and support, Amistad Law, Live Free, Professor Hannon of Villanova, Professor Foreman of Yale Law, of course my colleagues in the Police Reform Working Group. I have to give a huge thank you to Mayor Kinney, Commissioner Outlaw, and the entire administration for working with us throughout the course of this process. As it was talked about earlier with Councilmember Green and his leadership with the National Leagues of Cities, he definitely used his network to help introduce me to other people who were doing similar things and who have done similar things at other places, to be able to lean on them for guidance throughout the course of the last year. So thank you, Councilmember Green. Of course, to my freshman 4 colleagues who are my therapists and everything else. Thank you guys for having my back. I appreciate you. I want to say thank you to Council Members Gim, Johnson, and Sanchez as well, who've been mentors and extremely supportive throughout the course of this process. Thank you to Councilmember Parker, who had the ballot initiative on the ballot to be able to address this issue and to put us in a position to be able to use her ballot initiative to be able to talk about how Philadelphians felt as it relates to this particular issue. Councilmember Bass and I talked about today the registration side of this, so I want to say thank you to her for her support. My colleagues, council members Dom and Squilla, a huge thank you to both of you for working with me on the amendments to this particular legislation so you can help me make sure that we get it right. Of course, Council President, thank you for your leadership in helping steer this bill across the finish line. And last but not least, I want to say thank you to my colleague, Councilmember Brian O'Neill. Councilmember O'Neill and I have had in-depth dialogue about this particular bill. We've talked about the good, the bad, the ugly, and as the youngest member on council, talking to the one with the most wisdom on council, Councilmember O'Neill, I appreciate you, and it's a pleasure to serve on council with you, Councilmember O'Neill, because we can even agree to disagree and still have great informative dialogue in the midst of that. So thank you, everybody. I appreciate you guys so much. Philadelphia is leading the nation when it comes to this particular issue. And like I promised you all before, in the midst of this, we're going to monitor this issue and we're going to make sure that we get it right. And if it's not right, we're going to be more than prepared to go back to the drawing board and amend the legislation to be able to assure that we get it right. Shifting gears, last but not least, today at 5:30, if folks are free after you're finished with Councilmember Sanchez, because I'll be out there with you at 5 o'clock, we will be at the Kimmel Center today in collaboration with Young Involved Philly to put together an event around arts and advocacy. The event is going to take place from 5:30 to 7:30. Some of the panelists are folks who work with in collaboration with City Council and this legislative body. And we will be talking about the great work that this legislative body has done with our private partners as it relates to the advocacy for arts and culture and some of the things that we plan on doing moving forward. So if you're free, please join us at the Kimmel Center today at 5:30. And again, thank you so much, everybody, for your continued support. I appreciate you, and I appreciate working with you all. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Bass.
Well, thank you, Mr. President, and thanks to my colleagues for the great work that everybody's doing, and Councilmember Thomas, I look forward to following up with you on my concerns. Thank you so much for being willing to discuss them and have open dialogue and conversation. Right before we went online, I got the call about Marty Regustus, and it nearly dropped me to the floor. He's been a friend for so long. I can't even remember when we first met. We go so far back. And, I just thank God that I had the opportunity to know him, to be in his company, to call him a friend. He was somebody who was really, really special in the city, and he's really going to be missed. So, he did work pictures, as Councilmember Parker said. He did headshots. He did, for almost any event that I did, Marty was there. He did baby shower pictures and then baby pictures for me, and everything. He was like family. So he's really going to be missed, by all of us, I'm sure. So thank you, Mr. President, for indulging me on that. I also just wanted to speak very briefly about a press conference that we had just yesterday regarding Waterview Recreation Center in Germantown with the Black clergy of Philadelphia. I want to thank the Black clergy for really coming forward in a very strong, robust way and saying that our playgrounds and recreation centers deserve more. And they have an initiative now in which, led by Reverend Collier, they are going to be really working and pressing and pushing for the conditions of our rec centers to be addressed. This is something that's long overdue, and I just cannot thank them enough for having us there yesterday. And also, many thanks to Reverend Jeanette Davis and also Reverend Holston, who were at the press conference yesterday, as well as State Representative Steve Kinsey and State Senator Art Haywood. I said yesterday, and I'll say it again, as taxpayers, we have a covenant with the city of Philadelphia, all of us, in which we agree that we're going to pay our taxes. And in response to that, the city's end of the bargain is that they're going to maintain our facilities. And so that agreement has been broken. That is not what has been happening. And so as much as I love a community cleanup, I'm about sick and tired of doing community cleanups for things that we're paying to have cleaned up, like our rec centers. We shouldn't have to go out on our Saturday mornings and clean up rec centers. We pay for our rec centers to already be cleaned and addressed and maintained through our tax dollars. These services are supposed to be provided. If we as a community want to provide additional services, then by all means, we should be able to do that. But at the same time, the services that we pay for should be happening. They should be happening through our budgetary process. They should be happening through our rebuild initiative, in which we ask folks to pay extra for soda and sugar sweetened beverages. And so folks are asking, it's like the old commercial, where's the beef? Where's the money? What's happening? Why is this not being addressed in a more timely manner? Why do we have to keep going out and cleaning up our recreation centers because they're not being cleaned, they're not being greened, they're not being maintained, and what's happening with that? Our communities deserve more, and I look forward to really being a strong part of this initiative and ask other members of council to join us. One of the things that we are doing to strengthen our rec centers across the board in the 8th District is we are in the process of rebuilding all of our advisory councils. And so we had a meeting approximately 2 weeks ago with a number of individuals over at Lonnie Young. We expected, listen, we had hoped for 10 people, Mr. President. We had over 35 people who showed up. And that's a testament to the fact that people are interested, people care, and they want to see more in their neighborhoods. So we started with Lonnie Young. We have Worcester Playground coming up this Sunday, the 17th, from 2 to 4 p.m. at Worcester Playground. So we want to encourage folks, if you live in that area or if you're just interested, please join us. We need your help. And we want folks to show up and show out. We cannot complain from the sidelines. We have to be an active part of what's happening in our community. So we want to encourage folks to come out this Sunday from 2 to 4 at Worcester Playground. We also have scheduled Waterview Playground for an open house on November 10th. So we want folks to come out there. Happy Hollow Playground in Germantown is also being scheduled along with a number of others. So we want to really encourage folks to be a part of the solution. And, we think that working together, we can get great things done. Can't get it done by ourselves, not one of us, but working together, we can get a lot accomplished. So please come out and participate. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Thank you for your work on very important rec issues.
Thank you.
You recognize Councilman Johnson.
Thank you very much, Council President. I just want to thank Isaiah Thomas for his hard work and his dedication for his driver equity bill. It was not an easy piece of legislation or public policy for him to actually shepherd through city council without any type of adverse feedback. So I just want to give him a shout out because I've been talking with him from day one. I watched him go through the process. I watched him do his research. I watched him stay on the case when it comes to addressing this particular issue. So I just wanted to say kudos to him. I also want to just send out my prayers to the family of Marty. And I just met Marty just based upon me doing the work that I do in terms of being a former state representative as well as a city councilman. But in that process, I remember one day he offered just some words of encouragement and support just based upon the work that I have been doing. And from there, we just developed a cool relationship. And so he definitely will be missed. He was just an all-around good guy. And so my prayers and thoughts go out to his family. I just wanted to put that out there for the record. And I want to thank all my colleagues who participated yesterday in a special committee on gun violence hearing. There were some key discussions that took place that at least makes me feel like we're going in the right direction, although we will be surpassing 500 homicides this year in the city of Philadelphia. I did pay close attention to some of the key police districts across the city of Philadelphia under Operation Pinpoint, where homicides and shootings are actually going down. And so hopefully we can build on the successes of those particular police districts, but most importantly, continuously working together in a comprehensive way in addressing the issue of senseless gun violence. And those key findings were just based upon the working relationship between, contrary to popular belief, our district attorney's office and our Philadelphia Police Department. So hopefully we will continuously see more of that type of collaboration moving forward. And that's the only way that we're going to reduce the senseless gun violence that we're seeing here in the city of Philadelphia. And last but not least, all of us who have been around council for a little bit know our good friend Joe Meade, who currently right now works for the Philadelphia Flyers. And they will be having a pep rally outside City Hall today with the Broad Street Bullies. Philadelphia Flyers today at 12 p.m. So anyone wants to come out, have a good time, meet Gritty as we kick off this Flyer season, come on out and have a good time. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you. Broad Street Buildings. Boy. Thank you, Councilman. Chair recognizes Councilman Squilla.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I also want to congratulate my colleagues for all the work that they have done. This debate in our conversation is always so important, and then it's great to hear people could disagree and still a conclusion. So I appreciate that. But I do want to mention something that Councilmember Green mentioned too about it was an honor for me to speak the other day down at the historic marker dedication for the PGN, Philadelphia Gay News. It's a historic moment here for the city of Philadelphia, and Mark Siegel and his husband Jason have really given a lot to the city of Philadelphia, and also the ability for younger people to stand on their shoulders to achieve even new heights. So I'm not a big speaker here in a lot of these sessions, but I thought it was really important to congratulations to the PGN and Mark Siegel. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. That concludes our speeches on behalf of the minority and majority. And with that, Chair recognizes Councilman Squilla for a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the council be adjourned until Thursday, October 21st, 2021 at 10 a.m.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and probably second that council stand adjourned until Thursday, October 21, 2021 at 10 a.m. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, ayes have it. Motion carries. Thank you all very much. Awesome work.